Good morning, everybody, depending on where you are. I am in Portugal, where it is the afternoon, and I've already had a pretty long day. So, we are here to live stream the Golden Sun Education IPO, which is being brought to us by our good friends at Network One Financial. Um, and we are suspicious that we might have what I like to call a stealth IPO. And that is, as we have seen before, one of these IPOs that kind of sneaks up on us. We don't expect much out of it. And then all of a sudden, it rips out to, that can't be right. That's Goldman Sachs. GSUN, Golden Sun Education Group. And then we see it rip way up into well, this one's already priced at $20. So what am I going to do here? This one is an IPO that priced at $4 a share. Allocations were rather minimal. And the buy side imbalance right now is, well, there's almost no shares going live. Let me share my screen here so you guys can see what I'm looking at. I am on Webull, and Webull is showing me a looking over here, is showing a sell side imbalance on 3,000 shares at $20 per share. So this is very early in the pricing. This started about 1 minute ago. I had to kind of rush back from the hospital to get here. Everything is mostly okay. My daughter's just a little bit sick, my 2-year-old. So got her some medicine, got back here just in time. And I see that in, okay. So I was given 15 shares by Webull out of an allocation request of, I requested $500 worth. So that would have been, if it was a full allocation, 125 shares. So I got 15 shares. That's less than 10%. That's a pretty small allocation. So we are seeing, so we're seeing an indication price of $20. For me, 20, like 17, 16, 17, that's really kind of where I draw the line in terms of where I'm willing to take an opening bid. This is a super small volume right now, and we may see the price drop a little bit as this comes up, but this is looking tight for a squeeze. But at $20, I think it's very risky. I look at PEV, which ironically is running today after having one of the worst IPOs I've seen in a long time. The price is coming down a little bit. It's almost like they want to tempt us into playing this. This is an extremely small volume print here, just 4.2 thousand, basically 4,220 shares. Typically, we'll see these go live with 100,000. A small volume, relatively speaking, is like 30 to 50,000 shares. So this is really small. This means pretty much nobody who has allocated shares is selling. And that is a positive thing, I believe, in these setups. So move some things around here on my desk so I can trade if I need to. Now it's coming down to 18. At 18, I'm started to get a little bit tempted to to take a little shot on this one. 17. Now we're getting to the point where I feel like I am willing to take a bit of risk on this. It's not it's not a lock. I mean, I'd love to see it at like 12. But when I look back at what some of these have done, I'm thinking, uh, you go back and you look at LYT, you look at, let's see what I'm willing to risk here. Maybe like 150 shares. When I look at LYT, when I look at Top, when I look at what some of the others have done recently that have debuted with these and turned out to be stealth IPOs, we have seen them run later in the play. So some of these, like like I was saying, looked at Top, and I don't have time because I'm doing a little bit behind the scenes here. But when I look at Top, when I look at LYT, when I look at JCSE. We've seen some of these kind of not give us the immediate run on day one, instead kind of hold off a little bit and then and then run up afterwards. So at 17, I'm willing to kind of take a play on this. It's, if we see it kind of reverse the other way, I'll get out. But at 17, I'm feeling like having a little bit of fun with this. But total, I don't have a whole lot of spending power, I guess, today. But let's see what we can do. So setting my limit order now. If you want to try to get in on this on the on the debut, what you're going to need to do is set a limit order just above 17 and 1755. We're still 5 minutes from when this is going to go live. We still have only 8,000 shares. That's minuscule, and this could still vary quite a bit. You do want to be sure to remember what orders you've placed, because if this spikes up above your limit, and you kind of forget about it, maybe this opens up at 25, you forget that you set one at say 17, it just crashes and your order gets filled. That might not be what you meant to do. So just keep in mind when you've set an order that it will stay there until you cancel it, depending on the settings in your brokerage. We have another 4 minutes. I want to take 1 minute here, guys, to announce that we are going towards the a paid premium model for IPO Warriors. A couple reasons. One, I've been doing this for 2 years. I put a lot of time, effort, and even my own money into the services, the newsletter subscription platform, the membership platform, the website. All of this costs money and takes a lot of time. I put a lot of effort into this. So another reason is that at some point we just have too many people playing these. We have over 1,000 people getting the newsletter, and I've thought about it. I've talked to a lot of people who know, who've given me some advice that, maybe bringing down the number of people who are involved in these plays would not be a bad thing, considering that we're buying, we're trying to trade these off the debut. Let other people find it once it starts running. But what we're going to be doing is it's going to be starting on July 17th. I'm going to be sending out a very basic watered down newsletter to the general, to the free newsletter group. And the newsletter with all the great information, all the, the research, the in-depth, commentary, the trading strategies, that's going to go to the premium membership group. And if you go to the website, ipowarriors.com, and you click in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a button there that says, I think, premium membership. And the price is going to be $100 a month, or just under $1,000 a year. But if you sign up before July 17th, I'm offering significant discounts to where you can get this. You can get full access for, I think it's $460. It's like 50% off the annual and 40% off the monthly. So go ahead, sign up for that. Get in early. I am limiting the number of seats to 300 people. There will not be more than 300 members in the IPO Warriors Premium membership group. And that's something that's been a long time coming. I just haven't had the time to put it all together. The market was pretty weak, made it kind of difficult to justify asking people to pay this. But we have seen so many winners. We still have been taking profits in this market. So I believe that maybe there's no perfect time to do this, but that's the direction that I'm taking this in. And I really appreciate all the support and feedback and participation that I've gotten over the last 2 years. I want to step that up. In order for me to do that, I need to be able to financially justify all the time and money that I put into this. So we're about a minute away from going live here. We're right at 18. It's they're just like, they're picking right at my my desire to get in or not to get in here. At 19, at 20, I don't like it, and I am really on the threshold here. My actual buy-in amount is just under this right now, so it doesn't dip down a little bit, although geez, it's so tempting at 1905. I mean, 19, with so few shares, it's yikes. I mean, they are just torturing us. It looks like at 20, I'm just not, I just don't want to take that risk. At 19, I'm sort of there. At 20, I'm gonna wait for it to, to come down a little bit. And we're live at any moment here. 1955. I do like this setup. I do like that there's so few shares. 1949. That's really kind of where. Um, hmm, guess I'm gonna keep my pants on here. At, let's say 1905. I'm willing to, or 1915. But go live. No, I think it is live. I got to switch to another view now. I think I. What happened here? Huh. Main event. Guess I got to get a little smoother on that. One. GSUN. All right, what happened here? We got a dip to halt. So it opened at 19, no halt. Okay, odd. Let's see. Did I get a fill? I did get in. I'm in at 1839. And we are not really getting the kind of movement that we would expect on this. I would expect this to have halted by now. That it has not halted is somewhat shocking. And I think it may be time to say that this could halt down. The halt down seems. Where are we now? Sell to close. The low float should kick in, but I mean, we're not getting buy side volume, which is not very, not very promising here. We still have we have sellers coming. So what do we got here? We're gonna have to think of an exit strategy at this point, or do we just hold on a little bit? This is still a super low float IPO. It's way up at the premium. I think for my allocated shares, I'm going to go ahead and bank profits here. We did get a halt at 1665. Not really the open we were hoping for. Halt low 1720 with no halt. Yeah, it's like. So we have had 36,000 shares trade hands so far. We have not seen a very strong buy side imbalance. This may just be one of these, stealth IPOs that wasn't a stealth IPO, but actually, it already is at this point a stealth IPO. It just opened up above our, we generally like to see as an open point. I'm gonna wait for this one. We've seen these reverse. If you got IPO allocations, then now might be a time to say, hey, let's let's just take profits and say thank you for what is this? At $4, I mean, you're up 300% now, 315% if you got the IPO. Opened at 19, dropped down, or slightly jumped up to 1974, dropped down to 17, tried to kind of rebound in the second minute there, but nothing substantial. And we see some panic sellers taking profits. This could waffle around a little bit here for a bit. I do believe that at some point today we see E-Trade is offering 0 IPOs. Yeah. Looks like this trend has changed. Yeah, let's say Zintis, you're probably right here. The Chinese IPOs have been waiting a little bit, or I would say the stealth IPOs in general. LYT, TOP. The trend seems to have been to kind of like not try to manipulate it right away, and instead, and we'll go to a split screen here so I can show you top. If This will cooperate. No. My WeTrade pop-out windows have been, there we go. Okay, so GSUN is over here, top. And we'll look at LYT. See, top has been going. Okay, so top did it kind of like, opened at 25, 27, jumped around there for a while and kind of fell out. Gave people, I think, a little bit of panic down here at 13, 14. But since then, in the second week, it started running and has touched as high as 45, 44, 45. I do believe that at some point this just falls off. If you go back to, forget which one it was. We've seen a couple of these now that sort of similar where they didn't really rip them right away. No, we're still getting top. We also have seen 17, 16, 17B. Okay, so yeah, this one also dropped all the way down to 3. I mean, it just completely took everybody out after opening at 14, running to 23. This was actually this one did rip a bit on the open, and they since have built it back up. What's another one? LYT. PEV just halted. PVV up to 571. PEV was another one of the. Actually, PVV just never gave us anything that didn't look like a stealth IPO on the surface, but now it's starting to look like some shenanigans are. They're up to some shenanigans there. LYT, this one opened at 20, kind of floated around 20, from 17 to 25. Day 2, 18 to 29. Now it's up to 34. They closed the IPO yesterday, I believe. So at least the underwriter, exercised whatever their option, and now it's running. So, we haven't seen the run that we used to see almost like clockwork, the open at, 10 to 15, the run up to, 20, 30, and then pull back to baseline around 20. Then kind of run towards the end of the day. Then on day 2, hit, absurd numbers like 60 or 70. We haven't seen that for a while. So that's it's unfortunate, but these trends it does feel like if they're trying to launder money, and we all started picking up on it, they're going to change up their game a little bit. And maybe we need to adjust as well. Maybe we need to, of course, maybe we need to sit back and wait for them, to come to us. And maybe 17 is the number. 13 was the turnaround point on the kind of set before this. So it's, the game is still afoot. I believe that, we've seen it here with the debut at 20. Something's clearly up with these, but how they are manipulating them between when we, when we're allowed to get in and when we're as retail traders, and when they run it, seems to be something that they are messing with a little bit. So we'll try to pick up on that a little bit. This one really got me. I didn't go with a big position or anything. I did not add anything to my Webull position, or canceled the. So I just have my allocation shares there. In E-Trade, I did take a small position there. So I am currently underwater, but I believe that we see this turnaround in the, maybe today. I would be looking to get out if I can get out without a loss. If it goes down to 12, you just kind of, I think, have to look back at top and see where that went, and understand that they have not dumped their shares yet. They are sitting on 4.4 million shares, and only 32,000 shares have sold so far. So let's not get wild yet. About E-Trade offering IPOs. E-Trade is owned by JP Morgan, so they don't we usually get this kind of garbage stuff. The sweet garbage that is the crap company IPO. That is not something that E-Trade is probably ever going to bring us. What they are going to bring us are companies like, well, they brought us DD. They brought us Dunkin' Donuts, or whatever that was. Those are the only two they actually gave me any shares. One of the first ones they put out for allocation requests was Bumble, which actually would have been a sweet IPO to have been allocated shares for, because it was priced at 36 and debuted at like 68 or something like that. That was when all the IPOs were debuting at huge premiums. That was in 2000. But what the kind of the trend was that they never gave us anything that was actually any good. Put in allocation requests for quite a few IPOs that I was hoping would be, and turned out would have been great IPOs to have received allocations on. But they just, they didn't give me anything. The only ones that they did give me were DD, which was one of the worst IPOs of all time, at least mainstream IPOs. It even, I think it was a couple days after the IPO, China halted their app and sent them on the tailspin that ultimately become them getting delisted. So that was a complete dumpster fire. D-Nut, which was it Dunkin' Donuts or was it Krispy Kreme? Yeah, Krispy Kreme. That's right. So it was Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme was also pretty bad. I mean, if you sold right on and they didn't give me big allocations anyway. But the problem with the E-Trade IPOs is that when they are good, they don't give it to you, and when they're not good, they give you as much as you want. And that's been somewhat true of the Webull IPOs, in that they will give you allocations when you get a full allocation request when it turns out to be garbage, like PEV, which as I say that, is now doing it's waking up from what was a pretty bad run. After opening at 650, it's just now getting back to the point where anybody who, and I think they priced the IPO at 750. So if you got IPO shares and you're still holding them, you're still in the red. If you bought on the debut here, you're still in the red. If you are someone who loaded here and tried to pick off a bottom, you're just now getting out of the red. Okay, GSUN debuted, and looks like it has, I'm going to turn off PEV because my chart seems to handle one at a time right now. Looks like it is halted down again. So this is basically a disaster if you bought on the debut. And you're not too happy. I still haven't sold my 15 IPO shares. So not a great start to what was hopefully a stealth IPO setup. They seem to be messing with us and potentially me directly. But the good news is that we have only seen 56,000 shares turnover right now. So perhaps this turns around still. You have to think that when they get it up at 20 to begin with, that that at some point this runs and turns around. We've seen so many of them turn around right at 13. That's been the turnaround point before. So I'll be looking for a reversal here at some point. But there is no law. I mean, this could just be complete trash. They could have faked us all out, come out and said, okay, we're going to not sell, and then we're just going to sell right off the top. We know that at some point these do just fall off the cliff, and we don't know exactly when that's going to be. But it can be, anytime. There's no reason why they couldn't just say, okay, we're just going to we're going to rip it into the open. They have done that plenty of times before. Usually it's not at 20. Usually at 20, we see things kind of, bounce around in here. We have seen them open these at 40. I think it was JZXN that opened at 40 and completely tanked. So it's not unheard of that this will open and drop. Probably, a good reminder. I make my rules and then I break them when I get tempted into them. And this is kind of kicking me in the teeth a little bit, but I'm going to stick with it. Going to watch what this does. If they just sell it all the way off, I'd be surprised that at some point they don't turn this around. But who knows? Uh, all right. Again, I'm going to share with the group that there is we are moving the IPO Warriors newsletter towards a premium paid version. I'm going to send out a free version. It's just going to be kind of a list of the IPOs each week. It's not going to have any real insights. I'm not going to, break down the financials and talk about the underwriter and talk about the strategies. I'm just going to, tell you give you the basic stats and the brief one sentence about the company. That'll be the free version. You are going to get the recap every week saying what happened with the IPOs from the week before. That's all part of the free newsletter. That will continue. But the in-depth research that I do on these IPOs, the strategies, the insights, the financials, commentary on the underwriters, my kind of trading strategies that I'm looking at, those are going to be for the premium group. I'm also going to reserve the live streaming. That's going to be something that's going to be for premium members as well. I just feel that it will be yeah, I agree. Retail dumped on GSUN. So once retail is done offloading, maybe we see this turn around. Um, the I'm gonna do the live streams for the premium members. I just think that it's not a huge group of people that join us here. I think a lot of people here have been with me for a long time and do get value out of this. If you do get value to this, I think justifying what I'm charging is pretty manageable. I may reach out to a few individuals directly to who may we'll see. Um, the other thing that is going to be part of the premium newsletters and is not going to be part of the free ones is Allie's LPX plays. She does a really great breakdown of the stocks that are running on or poised to run on the lockup expiration. That's going to be a part of the premium newsletter. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring as much value as I can to the premium newsletter so that I can focus on it. So there's fewer traders in on these trades. We all know and can, I think, logically understand that the more traders that are playing, that are buying something that's already, that's not actively trading at buying the debut, that's going to impact the debut. And I certainly noticed that since I did IPO Warriors and since it started catching on and gaining traction, the maybe the whole market started picking up on it, but I certainly noticed that the ones that I've kind of called out, the debut prices have, especially the low float ones, have been affected. So I think it will be a benefit to the community. I'm also going to do a conference call on, I think probably on Vimeo. I'm going to do a live conference call once a week. I'm not sure exactly what the direction is going to be on Benzinga at this point. Whether I'm going to continue doing those previews, but I anticipate continuing to do those. And here we go. It's opened and trying to move to the upside. At some point, I would think, that retail stops selling and the buy side, comes in to push this up. I'm going to go ahead and just sell this at 16? 16 is good. That's 300% gain. This is just my 5 shares at, if I can get out there, great. If not, I'll stick in this for a little bit longer. Retail kind of hanging out here. It could baseline for a while and then, move hard in the other direction. But I do expect at some point that we see this ask side stop pressuring the price down. And once that happens, I think we'll see a buy side bid start to algorithmically drive this up. We're not there yet. We haven't found a bottom, or we don't know if we found a bottom yet. There's still a sell side out there at 15. Looks like some bag holders kind of holding out there. There is at 14 there's some buying starting to come in at 14. That could push it up. Gonna just shut up and watch it for a minute. No, that 14 order fell down. We've got a huge gap here. We've got all right, the sell side is sticking up at 1480, 1499, 15. The buy side isn't coming up to meet that yet. We could see that come in at some point. And these do have a way of kind of, mopping up the sell side volume, and then reversing. But we haven't seen an upward spike. We haven't seen a halt up yet, which is on one hand a bit, can't say I'm thrilled not to see an upside tick yet. But we're still very early in the ball game. We've had 2 halts down, and now we're seeing it come up to 15. We haven't seen any indication that. All right, so VWAP's at 1612. That would be one kind of pivot point to watch. 16 is a 300% win on anybody with IPO shares, so those people have to be looking to exit there. It's got to really break out. It's going to have to get up to, get up to that, up over VWAP, and then push from there. There will be people who bought in at the first halt, so that would be this halt here at 1058, open at 1490. So we might see some resistance there. It's kind of hovering there. There's still a huge gap, a dollar gap, so the spread is tightening a little bit here. It's having a little bit of trouble getting over 16, but I think we still have reason to believe this could go either way. And looks like sellers are kind of. He had 2 things going for it. Rhymes with Rev and has a recent low float IPO retail. Yeah. NASCAR, I'm not sure the PEV and Rev correlation is going for it. Recent low float that hadn't run, that's very likely. That very likely could have made it a target. But my wife's sneaking in here to grab a thermometer. And this is kind of in limbo right now. Let's see where this goes from here. You have to remember, this is at the end of the day, this is a $4 stock. This was, debuted at $4, and anybody who got allocations is still, sitting on a real pretty position to dump at a 280% profit. So, see a lot of orders out there for 15 shares at 1549, 15 shares at 1550. So those are almost certainly Webull allocations, just waiting to run for the, exits. Modify. I would like to modify to what, 1599, just to beat everybody else who's sitting there at 16. So if you're looking at big numbers, like if you want to exit at 16, what happened? If you're trying to exit at 16, maybe exit at 1595. You're going to have a bunch of people probably at 16. Nope, actually not a lot. Now we're starting to see the sell side dry up. A little bit heavier on the buy side finally. It's approaching VWAP. My sell order is looking like maybe. Okay, so I got out at 16 on my IPO shares. Just decided to say thanks for the gift, Webull. Put my money back in my pocket. Go buy some PEV. Just kidding. I'm not going to buy the run at this point. Maybe it runs, maybe it doesn't. GSUN is just now getting back to where it halted on the opening drop, and we're going to see probably some resistance. There's about in this opening print, there's about 35 about 35,000 shares that it's going to have to chew through before it can break out above 20 if it does. Otherwise, you're going to have bag holders here, as well as other IPO allocator, people who are received IPO allocations looking at VWAP as like, okay, maybe this is the top. It's very unlikely that this is shortable at this point. So that's probably not a force that's going to be acting on this. The thing I'm looking for is, can we get back up to the IPO price, and can it run from there? I don't know. If it can, that'd be great. If not, this is just one probably to watch for a little bit. Top took some time. Some of the others have taken some time. So, you know, that's how it goes. Just checking my emails right now, guys. SoFi giving me emails. Kind of losing steam here. It reached VWAP and hit that 16 level and is now kind of in that VWAP no man's land, trying to decide which way to go. I do believe that we've seen most of the initial IPO flippers take profits at this point. So at this point, we are, there's probably a few stragglers out there who got, significant IPO allocations from direct brokerages, and, they may have gotten 1,000 shares, 1,500 shares or whatever. Those might be lurking out there. But otherwise, I think what we're seeing is volumes start to decline as the, whoever the big anchor investors behind this deal sit tight and figure out what kind of games they want to play here. We've got a large sell order up at 1650, but not much. We're not seeing an algo come in and an algorithm try to start spiking this yet. This is a little bit of a different move than we saw with Top or with JCSC. But clearly there's, this is one of those Chinese IPOs with a shady underwriter, and I'm not sure that we've seen the end of this play yet. So does this get a run? I think at some point we're going to see this. We haven't heard the last of this one. I don't see this being, someone could come out of nowhere and just drop this like a rock, but right now I'm seeing a very thin sell side order book here. Buy side, not particularly thick, but we may see day traders start to key in on this and take it up. A note for the future me, who may watch this video before the next stealth IPO, is stick to your $15, $16 level on the debut. When it opens up higher than that, we're not looking at the setup we want. Trying to pick the bottoms off of these, pretty tricky. If you pick the halt there, okay, you got in at 1490. Better if you got in it didn't give you 13. So 14, it's hard to pick these. It's not really actively trading at this point. You try to pick it off here, but again, very big spread on the order book, and if you're trying to get in there, you don't know if it's going to go down to 4. You don't know if it's going to rip up to 30. But we've got a stealth IPO on our hands. All we can really expect is volatility. We got that in spades. There's a stock that started at $4, opened at 19. Barely spiked up, came back down, tried to kind of recover. They just weren't able to pump it off of the debut. It looks like they sort of tried to keep it tight like that, but I think there are too many retail traders in on this. It's certainly, when there's no shares available, that's, when nobody's getting allocations, that's a bit of a different story. There are some of these stealth IPOs where there's just nothing. but this one was allocated. Some allocations were given, and you're gonna get people ready to take profits at $19. That's almost a 500%. 500% gain if you got an IPO allocation. So now we've got somebody selling into a little bit of weakness in volume here, dropping down to 1470. But really, this is just we've got a little bit of a standoff here. We've got 50%, sorry, a 50-cent spread on the bid and ask. So if any sellers are willing to take that bid, we're going to see the price go to 1480. If any buyers are willing to eat that ask, then it's going to jump up to 1530. That's not showing us a whole lot of movement in terms of where the stock is going. We see a few sellers coming down. We've got 15 shares spread out between $15 and $15.28, and just volume, the initial action on this is kind of subsided. We have seen a lot of these run into the end of the day. It's pretty common, but they could have just turned everything off and said, we're not going to do anything with this today. Let it do what it's going to do, and they'll drive it up later. It would kind of surprise me if we have to assume that there's a China side to this deal. And it would surprise me if, false halt up on PEV, straight into a halt down. Yeah. So that's the halt of death. People would buy out of that halt up. And then the rug pull. Yeah, that's we've seen that before, and that's what makes trading these stealth IPOs so incredibly difficult. PEV, just looking back at it on my other chart. Let's see. Yeah, once you see it kind of halt up, it got as high as 640. Never quite touched that 650 debut from day one, and that probably not a coincidence. People who got stuck in that debut trade, bailing. Volume in that print was 2 million shares. Volume, we're seeing almost 1 million shares per minute since that halt on PEV, which tells me something's up when the float was supposed to be 2 million shares. How is it trading like that? Unless people are shorting more shares than there are shares in the market. Okay. GSUN starting to make a move up to the upside. There is, the working theory would be that if they are trying to drive this, they're not going to be driving it up while retail is willing to buy the IPO allocations off from the allocation holders. VWAP might just be a pivot point that they're not willing to push it up over that, but we've seen so many of these run that have to think that there's sort of like the retail sells off phase, and then what's really where's the driving force behind this, and where are they going to take this? They tend to like to take these up to as high as 900%. So if 19 is a almost 400% run, could this break 20? Sure, could. Hard to guess. It really is sort of guesswork, but there is some, we do have precedents to look at. Got an $18 gain on PEV, better than a loss. Nice. The VP hourglass. Okay. The price at 5, hit a high at 18, halted down. Yeah, but NYZ did have a little bit more upside on that opening halt. However, around 12. No, I ended up taking a pretty bad hit on MYNZ, but ended up holding and then adding down at 10, under 10, and then getting out when it went over 20. and ended up turning it into a nice little win. So I don't want to really bag hold this, but I don't want to hold it down at $10 for 3 months or whatever MYNC took, and I don't have a huge big enough position to make a ton either way. I was a little bit surprised just because the volume was so small in the initial print to have 22,000 shares on the initial print. I thought, okay, well, we've seen 70,000 on an opening print at in the 15, 16 range, that, produce multiple halts to the upside. So, my thinking at least was maybe with such a low volume, it could absorb a little bit more, a little bit of a higher price, but clearly I was not right there. I did not go for 19. I am slightly below that, but was sort of in the middle of contemplating canceling. I canceled my order and kind of speculatively said, okay, well, if it's going to open at 18, I'll get in. And unfortunately, am now bag holding a small position from where it's at now. But VWAP is kind of the stop sign on this one. We've got buy side, not a lot of buy side. We got sellers. We got two sellers at 16 and 1640 that are, my guess is, trying to get out of their position, and if they can't, we'll start bringing down. If it's not the same buyer, two sellers trying to jockey down on the spread until they can kind of dump their loads of GSUN. This is one that had been on the calendar for quite a while. We first started tracking this, and I had alerts on this one for about a year. So, yeah, hold on. Let's see if Ali can join us. All right, give me a second. Let me see if Ali wants to get in this. Okay. Another thing I'd like to plug is thesound.com. Go to thesound.com and stream our music, and that will help raise it. Setup's not complete. Yes, exit setup. Thesound.com. When you play a song, you help save a dog. Play a song, save a dog at thesound.com. Costs you nothing. Just have to have a Spotify or Apple Music account. If you do, and you listen to our tunes, even as just background music while you work, we've got some nice, soothing, relaxing piano songs. You just leave them in the background, and that will that helps us raise money for dog rescue efforts. Hold on, we're about to go into. All right, I got to get into the studio. Oh wait, I'm already in the studio. Damn it. Let me invite somebody else. I'm going to bring Ali on here for a minute. Join us with no video, with just audio, but she can share her thoughts on these and some of the LPX plays that we've seen. Just send her the link. We'll give her a minute here. Here we go, Ali. Hey, Ali, how's it going? Oh, she's in. Yep, coming in. There she is in chat.
Hey.
Hey, Ali, how's it going?
Good. So I'm right now still, topless, which is why you guys don't get video.
No, we're not an OnlyFans channel.
Sorry. Yeah, we're definitely not. But I'm like stuck to my ice machine until all of this heals. So yay.
For those of you who don't know Ali is Trading Fit Girl on Twitter. She is an expert at playing the lockup expiration plays on these IPOs. And what that is we often see these low float IPOs kind of settle out at around $1 or $2 a share, kind of in the $2 bin. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, they drop a headline of a share buyback or an FDA approval or a merger or a partnership or a contract or
Something fluffy.
something fluffy. Sometimes it's something substantial, like AERC got FDA approval for their device, and the stock just rips, 2, 3, 400%. And for some reason, they tend to go up to their exercise price of the warrants or the locked up shares. And, just a big coincidence, perhaps, but perhaps not. And Ali is a master at kind of hunting those down. She writes an LPX recap, an LPX preview for the IPO Warriors newsletter every week. She also has her own trading guides, which are well worth buying, studying, learning from, absorbing. And part of those is, well, I'll let Ali explain it in a second. But recently she had surgery to reattach her shoulder. It got completely ripped off, and they had to sew
like
it back on. I'm kidding, but she did have surgery on her shoulder, so that's why she's on the ice machine. And welcome to the Golden Sun IPO debut. How you doing?
Thanks, Matt. Doing good. Chilling on ice, quite literally. And yeah, so with my shoulder, it's my second surgery on it. And this time, because I didn't want my tattoos to be damaged at all, I actually agreed to have a 4-inch cut over the top of my shoulder so that they could literally just get in there, open it up, and get everything fixed without cutting through the nice normal 4 or 6 or whatever cuts through my tattoos. And my surgeon was like, yeah, it was really easy to get in there and get everything good to go. But now I have this 4-inch stitch cut on the top of my shoulder that a lot of people are like, oh, that's horrible. But hey, my tattoos are fun, so I'm happy.
It does look pretty badass, and it does almost look like they removed your arm.
I know, right? Yeah, I posted it the other day, and people are like, whoa. I'm like, yep, I agreed to that. So, but yeah, so the lockups recently have heated back up. I expected them to kind of chill out for the summer. And we've had some really good ones. We had CDU and AERC last week. CDU I missed completely because it was the day that I was under. But that one,
SIDU, which is
SIDU
infamously the one that got, that was an IPO that absolutely wrecked me. Doing not exactly the same mistakes I made today, but buying way, way out of my comfort zone on the debut in a position that was way, way, way too big, and just getting destroyed on the reversal. I can say that I did get out at a price that's higher than it reached on the recent, on the recent LPX run. So I can't. If it had gone to like 50 on this run, I would have been pretty pissed. But no, these CDU was SIDU, AERC was AERC, and that is AeroClean, I believe, is the company. And what were the catalysts on those, Ali?
I don't know.
Okay, AERC was FDA approval.
I do that
was a
one.
pretty big deal, at least topically.
Yeah.
CDU was just inclusion in some, rather
so
large.
They originally were, because they're a space ticker, so it was some contract. They've been working with NASA, things like that. When they originally, I was looking at them when they originally debuted, and it was like, wow, okay, this could be really big. But it's an end-to-end mission operations solution project that they're on. And so they've got, a bunch of satellites that they're connected with. And the drop on it, of course, is, hey, NASA. Okay, cool. Everybody pays attention to that. But the actual run for this one, there was no news. Like, they just ran it with an algo, and here we go. And we see those a lot.
I thought the news was that they were included in a group that got a NASA contract.
Maybe, but it wasn't their PR. That's the cool thing about it.
It was dropped by somebody else.
It was dropped by somebody else. So the way to tell on that, if it is the companies, it's going to be listed in 8K. If it is not the companies, then it doesn't hit the 8K, because they're required, if it's company news, to do an 8K on it as news. Somebody else, they don't have to do it. So somebody else.
How are you monitoring the 8Ks on? Do you have any way to? Are you processing them every day?
BAMSEC, yes. So I use BAM SEC, and I have all of the notifications up. So I have all of these stickers on watch, and every day I go through at the end of the day. A lot of people think that everything I do is automated. It's not. So the spreadsheets that I do, I go through every single day on the lockups. I go through every single day on the non-compliance, and I check every one of them. So anything that has had a lockup expire since basically April, if they haven't run yet, I'm just kind of quick checking them, and they're all on watch through BAMSEC. So I can just quick go to the main BAMSEC screen, and I can see if anybody's dropped news for the day. I just do a quick go through, and then the ones, anything that's moved at all or had any volume whatsoever, because we do watch for the volume pops, because those are good indicators that somebody knows something. So those I'll go through and just spot check and see what's going on them. But for the most part, I'm going through all of these every single day.
And when does the 8K get filed in relation to when the headline actually gets published?
Generally within about 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours.
So the
So
8K gets filed after the headline gets published?
sometimes it's filed at the same time. Sometimes we'll get a PR and I can go to BAMSEC and it's already there, or I can go to Edgar and it's already there. It just depends. But they have to file it. I believe it's 48 hours is the actual rule. Most of the time it's within 24 hours. They want people to see these. So they're not going to be like, oh yeah, we're totally going to file this a week later. They're pretty good about it, getting it up pretty quickly. Majority of the time, if we have a PR first thing in the morning, it's by the end of day that the 8K has been updated through the Edgar system. And BAMSEC has a poll that they do. I'm not sure how often it is. It used to seem like it was a lot quicker, but then TGIS took them over, and it seems like it's a little slower now, where I'll see it in Edgar or somebody will tag me in an Edgar filing, and a couple hours later I can see it in BAMSEC. So I am checking both of them since that merger happened with TGIS. I don't know what their system is anymore. It used to be direct. Who knows now? But as far as checking things on the PRs, you can also find it on company information. Twitter is basically shit right now with all of their bots. I used to have TweetDeck up and I would keep the tickers, and now it's like shares, and shorts haven't covered a single share, and there's like 8,000 of them. It's like,
yeah, those
cool,
bots are out of control.
They're getting ridiculous.
The
So
next
that's
move
not
comes
something
in
I
a
use.
few hours. I don't know why.
Right? On a
Pumping the
Sunday.
Discord
On a Sunday
channels.
at 2:00.
Right.
Yeah, those are driving me crazy. So I do need to find a better solution. TweetDeck was great for the last couple of years, but since Elon called them out and the bots have just taken over, it's kind of worthless. But there's a lot of other ways that you can check them, as far as like if there's any move whatsoever. Obviously within the room, we are very, very quick about it. Something gets a volume pop or something, moves at all with any significance, we're looking. So as a room, there's about probably 35 of us active majority of the time. And hey, this moved. Anybody see anything? We're checking other Discord rooms. We're checking Twitter. A couple of our guys have written programs to get rid of the bots, so they watch Twitter also, and just all of the other things. So it is total eyes for the most part, and that makes it a lot easier. One person could not do what we do. Unfortunately, I would love it if we could just write programs for everything and just have it all funnel, but it doesn't work like that. But yeah, as soon as something moves, we're checking it. And then, of course, every single night we are going through with research team. They're helping a lot with just going through, hey, this moved today. Do we have a catalyst? Do we have, was there a pumper on it? Was there, whatever, 8K, was there, we've had a lot of them lately. And you mentioned that the other morning where they'll have a PR first thing in the morning at like 7 or 8 o'clock, and it has this pop and drop and then doesn't do anything. And what we're seeing is those are kind of the cover their asses for their later on. Like, hey, we actually did drop a PR, but then we're also going to run it in a couple of days with just algos and not say anything. So,
but point to the PR and say, well, no, that's why, not because we pumped it.
Yeah, we totally didn't pump this with algos. Like, it was legitimate. It
and
just
that
was delayed.
What was that one? The car technology platform.
Ooh, I remember it. I don't remember the ticker.
What was it?
Hey, room, help out on this one. What was the one the other day?
It was a couple weeks ago. It was CETI or something.
Let me look in my spreadsheet.
She'll have it. She'll have it. Allie keeps incredibly detailed spreadsheets on all of this stuff. So
It was no, that wasn't it.
it wasn't CETI. It was something
No,
else.
it was. I remember what one you're talking about. I just can't remember the ticker.
CYN? No.
No, CYN's been a while ago. Oh, Seed, CEAD. That was the uplist.
Okay. No, but
So
was
that
it
was
CYN is the car company that's like, oh yeah, our new platform is published, and then it ran for like 3 or 4 days.
So CYN started the run on 4/21. They had a link out, and their lockup was April 18th. So they ran it 3 days after. With that one, they didn't actually hit because they ended up having other stuff go on with it. So that was one of the first ones. That and PIK are actually two of the first ones that we started noticing the cashless options on. So we started watching those. So now any of them that have a cashless, we're kind of like, are they actually going to hit the exercise price?
Warrants?
Yeah, the cashless warrants. So because they basically can get the difference on them, and that's something that a lot of people.
NASCAR makes a good point that one of the PRs that's the headlines that these companies have been using is the board authorizes share buyback program up to $1 million, which is complete
bullshit.
Because that's just the board saying, sure, we authorize the company to buy, with HTCR, it was
within 12 months,
$5 million. Yeah. But they don't have to. It's not like they're saying we mandate you to buy, we're issuing a company mandate that we are going to buy. It's just saying, yeah, we're authorizing the company to buy shares back. And, it's completely meaningless. The company doesn't have to buy any shares at all. In theory, if they did, it would, squeeze the float and put, demand on the stock and assert buy side pressure. But
so behind the scenes on that, you have to look back, because a lot of times when these guys buy, the insiders buy, it's 6 months before they can do anything. So when you have those, you want to look back 6 months and see who can sell now, because what they're going to do is anything that they could have sold 6 months later, that's what they're selling into this volume. And then when it drops, because a lot of times it drops below the pricing. So say it's at 90 cents and they're like, yeah, we're totally doing a share buyback. It goes up to $3. They happen to have stuff that they could have sold at $2.70. Awesome. And then, yeah, they're totally going to go back and buy when it hits 90 again. Like, yeah, there's your share buyback. So it's a nice little fluffy game. And when you look at the big picture on it and you follow, because all of it can be tracked in the 10Ks and the 10Qs, we just don't know about it until they filed the 10Ks and the 10Qs, because it's a fast forward.
When do those come out?
Well, quarterlies are every quarter, and then the 10Ks are generally the beginning of the year because it's the yearly. So between March and May, and then every quarter. But yeah, so a lot of times we won't know for like 2 months after. And it's like, oh, just kidding. Yeah, they totally sold it the top and rebought when it died. And that's how they do it. That's how they survive. It's all a survival game, which is what I love.
So are there any LPX plays that you're watching now that you'd like to kind of share with the group?
Yes. So with the lockups, I am only watching the ones that have exercise prices. And that was something that as a group, we kind of made an ultimate decision, because there were just so many of them that we can't watch everything. So if it has an exercise price, then we're going to watch it. If it has not already hit above its exercise price, it's higher up on our list. Now, we do have the stealth IPOs, like the one today where it goes way above and then it just drops right back down. In a couple days, I can promise GSUN is going to be sitting at, $4 or $2. And
hold that thought for 1 second, just because we have seen quite a few that used to do that go the other way now.
Right.
Top JCSC. I mean, what makes you so sure that GSUN is not, just kind of selling off initially here, shake everybody out, let the IPO flippers, the American retailers dump their shares, and then they start, bringing it up like they did with TNON, with TNON, with TOP, which is currently up at what 30 something, hit over 40 before. I mean, how do you? I mean, I know that we all know that this is going to $2 in the near future, but what makes you so sure that this doesn't go to $2 on with a stop at 30 or 40 before that?
It might. And I mean, I'm I'm in it with a couple shares. So on this one, I actually did a 500 allotment, and
Mm,
I got 12 whole shares.
I got
So
15,
woohoo!
and I'm already out at 16.
Yeah, awesome. But so here's the fun thing. OST, perfect
Yep.
example. We all got
Hmm.
partials on it, and that was
Hmm.
a little bit frustrating. And okay, fine. But that was the one that kind of made me start paying attention to if we put in, these crazy allotments, because there's been a few of them. We put in pretty big allotments to see if it'll actually fill. And
Hmm.
some of them do, some of them don't. The ones that fill our entire allotment die. It's
Yep.
just a thing.
PEV.
Yep. PEV, ASNS, perfect
Yep.
example. They die,
Yep.
but then they're going to go
Got some
later.
action here on GSUN here.
Yeah, I'm watching. It's at 16 right now. So with these, the ones that fill partials, somebody else is watching them. They're going to die, they're going to recover, and then they're going to go crazy. And then somebody, and I actually can't say it because we're recorded, I actually do know the backside of this. Somebody is going to pump it, and then, hey, it's going to be shorted, and it's going to do an OST, just death. LYT in a few days, probably going to do death. Do I know the exact time frame? Absolutely not. But there is
TOP at some point.
TOP. Yeah, there's
The
a lot of
IRX
behind the scenes.
was one of the most amazing ones because it actually ripped really hard. I made a ton of money on that one.
Yeah.
It debuted at 16, halted up to 17 something, and then was halted for 3 hours. And I said, I'm out. Opened and for a brief second at 49.99. I sold everything at
Yep.
49.99. It then came way back down, I think down to like 12 or something, and then embarked on a run all the way up to 100. And it was over $100 a share.
Yep.
And then in one day sold off like over 90%.
Uh-huh.
And so these we know where they end up. The road, the question is, are there opportunities to profit on the road to, to the peak before the valley? So if you do trade these, don't get greedy. Understand, pets is another example of one where we just nailed it. We were in when it was like at $1.20, and it ran up to like $8. Then it hovered around 3 or 4 for a while, and then just
Win again.
fell
Yeah.
all the way under $1 in like
Yep.
one day. So here we go. GSUN is starting to move a little bit. Not entirely surprising that it gets some, that we're still, getting some volatility here. Again, the question becomes, are they really going to rip it, or is this just kind of letting some people out? But we've got, if we can believe level 2 on Webull at all, we've got 10,000 shares, on order at 15. We do have some sellers starting to step in. Very likely some bag holders and some traders who got caught on the way down, myself included, although I'm not eyeing an exit quite yet. We are going to have resistance in this level over here between 1665 and 1980, where people bought in. If it can get back up through that, it could rip. But my guess is that the invisible forces behind this one are not in any hurry. I think they used to try to rip these really in the in the first day or two, really in the first 2 days, and now they've kind of realized, like, wait, actually we can take our time building these up before we have had our fun and just sell off whatever's left. And my
It's
theory behind
also
these plays,
easy. Well, it's
what's that?
also easy. It's also easier if they play the emotional card. One of the
Right.
algos that I love is it's a psych algo. And if they get people, both ways wanting to play, and then they get them trapped, the emotional side kicks in, and they can drag this out for however many days that they want, because they're going to keep getting that FOMO on both sides. And then tomorrow it can be shorted also. So you have the shorts coming in with their FOMO, like, oh, it's already up too high, it's going to go down. So the emotional side of playing this multiple days is so much more beneficial than just a one and done.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah, we used to see like a day one rip up, then rip up off the open, 3 or 4 halts, and then come down through a couple halts and baseline for a bit. Then it would kind of start tailing up towards the end of the day, run into the close to new highs, and then on day two, see just these massive runs where we just kind of like, oh, what? I remember C-Pop, EJH, a couple of these that were just insane. And you're just like, how, what? This is a $5 IPO and it's at $70 right now. It's crazy. And of course it comes down, but caught a couple of those runs for again big wins, like 5-digit wins, and you know kind of for you had to understand that that's not going to last forever. Once these plays get identified, they get played out. People start. First of all, you're going to get too many buyers on the upside, and if this is my theory behind the stealth IPO setup is that this is a money laundering scheme for international traders. A lot of Chinese want to get their money out of China. One way to do that is own a company that issues a bunch of shares that you give those shares out to your nephew, friend, cousin, or your own bank account, your own trading account, with a US tied to a US bank account. You give those shares to that side, and then in your China side where you have all your money, you just buy all those shares at a huge price, and that way you are transferring the money from your account in China to the account in the Western world. And if other traders start getting in on that, yeah, you're gonna have some leakage. You're gonna lose some. You're gonna end up buying some shares that aren't your kind of your partner shares in the West. But it's still laundering money is expensive too, and this is an efficient, otherwise very efficient way to do that. But if you can if you can find ways to cut people out, which is, it really felt like it used to be easier for them to get on. I mean, we'd see these IPOs just show up. The first ones I completely missed. They got on the calendar, they debuted, and the only reason we knew that they had done anything was that we'd see, they'd show up in the halt, in the halt list, or I'd see like the next day, like, hey, this stock went up like 400%. What was it? It was a new IPO. How did I miss that? And now I have screeners and other ways to hopefully catch these before they debut, but they're not able to just kind of slip them onto the market without us catching them, which was kind of their initial strategy. And they adjusted by first thing they did was like JZXN was one of the first ones we saw. They debuted it at $40, $45 or something, and spiked up into a halt and then just crashed down. There's no opportunity really to take any profit. You were just going to sit in a world of hurt, and they were able to kind of run their scheme on the way down as it fell from 45 to 35 to 30. They're still selling $4 shares for $30. There's a lot of wiggle room there to extract cash from one from one account to another. But now that move it seems like they've decided that wasn't the most efficient way to do it, because they can only move so much volume before the prices come down. So now it seems like they're kind of debuting it around 20, letting it fall a little bit, or kind of jackknife around, letting retail even have a few shares. And that's causing, making it harder to play. It's not giving us the straight up buy the debut, let it rip up. And I certainly am going to come back to the $16 limit. I feel like there's almost a couple of playbooks that they go by, and maybe they're making a game time decision. But this one seems like they decided to keep the float pretty low on the opening print. And the
Hey,
volume,
Matt, GSUN's shortable. GSUN is
it's
shortable.
shortable now, yeah?
It is not shortable.
God,
I just got confirmation. It is 14.69 per share, and currently on Cobra there are 50 available on a locate. I just got a screenshot.
Shares?
Yeah, So it's a low. They're only allowing a few, but Centerpoint's nothing. He's looking through all of them right now.
Cool.
This is why you have friends.
The volume's still only 200,000 shares traded.
So it took it, what, an hour to be shortable? Okay.
That's crazy. Yeah. That someone's already gone out and made their shares shortable. I can't.
Guardian, it's 30 cents a share, and there are 5,000 available.
It's pretty dangerous short, but if the insiders.
Oh, he's not shorting it. He's just checking it for me.
No, I know. I'm saying it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
30 cents a share is not even that's not, what is that, 20%?
Yeah, so the only ones that is shortable on are Cobra and Guardian. Everybody else is nothing.
Yeah. I'm surprised if there's anything. It would be short this down into maybe no coincidence that there's 5,000 shares roughly in the bid side.
Yep.
Up to 13, which was about, no, halt. You could short this down into a halt, but where it reverses from there would be anybody's guess.
So the volume profile, it is literally dead center of the thickest point. So majority of the people holding this right now are at this price in the 15s.
And that accounts for IPO allocations as well?
As far as I know, I have not got an answer back from Thinkorswim. So that's on Thinkorswim. Well, TDA.
I see.
So it's supposed to be the total of what is held at this point.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, considering a lot of us got, 10 to 40 shares at whatever it was.
Well, I mean, you've got to, if there's
$4.
If the float on this IPO is 4.4 million shares and only 240,000 shares have traded.
Well, I know just in our room alone, there is about 900 shares that were allocated.
Did you add my 15 shares there?
Yeah, I did. I added my 12 also.
Yeah.
So.
Back to, what are you looking at for LPX plays these days?
For the lockup plays, so there are mostly the May ones, honestly. So TIVC is one. It is ridiculously low float. It's been walking up the last few days. I've kind of been trolling it on Twitter just to kind of see the reaction, and the amount of people that have attacked that it's a short at this level tells me that, one, people are either sideways on it, or two, people are actually shorting it, and they're going to get just absolutely destroyed like AERC, because I got a lot of just the negative feedback on AERC the first day it started moving. So that's kind of my test. It's I call it the Twitter test. So the other one, of course, is BJDX. We had a test on that last week, and it came right back down. We call those the liquidity test. We had one also on Beat. We had one on, what was it? Sing. We had a little bit, but that wasn't CING. Yeah, that wasn't enough for me to be like, Also, their lockups a little bit later than the others. As far as the OTC uplist, we have BLBX. That one's done a couple tests, and it has run a few times, but they couldn't dump the shares that they needed. So we still have that 180-day. What was the other one? There was two others that I'm watching right now.
Of these, which are the top, say, three for EP, current price to EP? Like which have?
Well, AERC was my top one, but that already ran. So my next two are going to be TIVC has a 625, and then BJDX still has 2.8 million at $7. So TIVC, BJDX are my main ones right now. BLBX I do like, and they're at $5. Okay, fine, but they have the spikeability for previous. I do have a small position on that one. I haven't actually built it out yet, just because it'll pop and then it comes back down. And those I'm like, we have time. And then there was one other. Where was it? It was up higher. Oh, ACAN, AKAN was one. They're coming up. So they had their 90-day on the 13th, and that one has shown that it can move. So on the 90-day, we had 2 million shares that were available. What was the other one? I've been asked so much on LITM. And
Lithium, yeah.
yeah, so they do have I think it's a $7. Let me double check on it. I'm in the tracker right now. Yeah, so they have a 750, which was where they listed. 97% of the shares are held though by their director's office or something like that. So they're really, anytime they have that much control, if I mean, if they don't want to move it, it's not going to move. And now, like, I did a video on LITM and I was like, hey, it's majority owned. So if they want to move it, they're going to move it. If they don't, like, no matter what we do, it's just not going to touch it. But their 180 day was on the 18th of May. They've had a couple like little walk ups, things like that. But that one, I'm just kind of, when it starts moving, because it's so held, I'll probably scalp it out. But it's not one that I'm ever going to like get into and hold when it's that majority held by their insiders. Anything over about 60%, I kind of pull back on, like, they've got too much control on it and they could just leave it as is for however long. And we all know that they can stay salient way more than we can. All right, what was the other one?
They're not owning their shares on margin.
Yeah, they're definitely not. They own them outright. So we had Beat. So Beat has May 10th, and they've popped a couple times. They do have a 750 exercise price for the 180 day. They did have a $6 EP also, but that didn't have a lockup. So when it ran before, because we all know that Beat ran before, that would have been the ones that didn't have a lockup. So now we're looking at the ones that do have a lockup. So anytime they have a multiple, we always want to consider that. But also they've made their money, so it might be a little bit longer. So that one I'm not full on. And honestly, I won't be full on any of those that have the multiple until they start moving.
And when you say multiple, you're referring to what?
Multiple exercise prices. Sorry.
All right.
So yeah, so my main two right now.
So some of the things you're looking at, you definitely want to have an exercise price. You want to have a single target exercise price. Is that just because it makes it easier to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So for example, so BJDX, everybody knows that I've been on that for a while. And yes, I played the pop the other day and I actually stopped out at the 140s. And then I got back in after surgery, now that it's dumped out. But with that one, we had $7 and we had $10. Well, the $10 were cashless. They actually don't exist anymore. So I've been asked a lot recently, hey, what about the $10? Well, they were cashless. They've already been used. And if you look at the most recent 10Q, it only shows that we have those 2.8 million on the $7 left. So I'm only going for a $7 EP, which also simplifies it for me because I'm not guessing anymore. All right, are they going to get it through 7? Are they going to run it to 10? Where are they going to start dumping? I've got a $7 target and they have 2.8 million shares. So we get to figure out the volume they need to get it over that. And then it's done. Like, that's it. So I like those when they're clean and we have a definitive number. I love it when they do the 10Qs or 10Ks and they're like, hey, we have this amount at this price. Awesome. Thanks, guys. BLBX was actually the same way. They told us, hey, we have 4.2 million shares that we can use at the 180 day. Awesome. Cool. I appreciate you. Thank you for telling me that. Also, I know you haven't used them yet. So when we're looking at these, definitely checking in the filings. So the 424s, we're searching for the exercise price and we're searching for the lockup. And if they don't have a lockup, then I don't care. And if they don't have an exercise price, I don't care. They have to have both of them for me to want to play them.
Right. And the theory there is pretty straightforward. If you, if you're a company or you were an investor in an IPO company, especially these kind of crappy companies, shitcos as Ali likes to call them, and you got, 100,000 shares, but they're locked up for 180 days, and the share price is currently at $1.50, and it has to get to $5 before you're allowed to sell. You're going to be pretty motivated to find a way to get that share price up. And if you are actually the company or one of the directors or the underwriter, there's ways to do that. As we discussed, you can simply issue we have What are some of the other? We talked about the share buyback. We've talked about contracts that actually aren't really contracts. They're like commitments to buy, or
Those are fun.
yeah, contingents. Contingent on FDA approval. That was one that IINN did multiple times. And as much as I do like that company and have a very big long term position in that, you look at those articles and on the surface, it's like, oh wow, $400 million in contracts. Like, yeah, but they're not like revenue yet. They're just contingent on them getting FDA approval. So if they get FDA approval, great. They'll still probably renegotiate those things. But the theory here is that when you see a recent IPO, we know what the landscape looks like. We know this isn't some, one of the things that makes these low float IPOs special, and makes them something that I think give retail traders a little bit more of an edge, is that big money isn't really paying that much attention to these. These aren't stocks that Warren Buffett could come in and trade. He'd have to come in and like buy the whole company. Um, so we do have opportunities, with the 1,000 shares, the couple thousand shares. You don't want to own too much because you start controlling the float. But there are opportunities for us, and there are digestible numbers. I mean, we know, with AERC, it was what, 2 million shares in the float, less than 3 million shares in the
Yep.
float. We knew that the price was way down. We knew that the lockup expiration was coming. We knew what the EPs were. And really the question becomes what kind of strategy do you want to employ in these? For me, I've just been too busy recently to know 100% that I will be at my desk when these run. And this be pretty horrible. I could, I've been in the hospital almost half the week for the last 3 or 4 weeks as my wife delivered our second child. Our first daughter's been a little bit sick. So I'm just constantly pulled away. So building positions, managing them, to the extent that Ali does, which is Ali's, approach is more or less, you know, start making your list, not start, have a long list of IPOs that you're tracking, find the ones that are near kind of bottoms and start accumulating with stop losses to stop you out if they turn, further downside than you expected, and basically already have your position established for when the headlines run. And then know what your price targets are, so you can, rather calmly identify how long you're going to hold and where you're going to exit. That takes a bit more capital, takes a bit more time, takes a bit more patience, because, I mean, prior to the surgery, how many positions would be pretty normal for you to be sitting in at any time?
25 to 30.
Yeah. So if you're sitting in, a few thousand, I mean, I don't know, we don't need to talk about specific, if you're sitting in that many positions, you've got a lot of capital kind of in the market, waiting for things to happen. And,
and you have to respect your stop losses. You
so,
have to have it set that if it goes against me, I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I need to reassess my time frame. I every single morning, as soon as I get up, I'm adjusting my stop losses. I'm, what is this doing today? What did it do yesterday? And it's a lot of work, but it's very worth it. Also, majority of my stop losses are above my average. I very rarely will take a cut unless I'm building it. If I'm building an initial position and I'm throwing small position or small lots on it, then yeah, it can go against me and I'll just get out and then, okay, where do I need to be? Was I in the wrong time frame, or was there something that I didn't see? Once I've built a position, my stop losses are going to be staggered and they're going to be above my average. I generally am going to take a green stop loss because to me, it's not worth the time to be like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to let
not
this
really
go.
even a stop loss, it's a stop win.
It's a stop win. But yeah, so moving them up and really just respecting when you're getting in and when you're deciding that, okay, I'm wrong, but I need to know that I'm wrong before I'm actually red.
Right.
So it takes a lot. It took me reality probably about a year to master where I needed my stop losses to build these positions. And
Right.
granted, last year was so easy with the lockups. I mean, it was a great experience because all of them were running. We had like 95% of them were the parabolics. And that made it really easy, but it also made it really easy to see where you're wrong. Because when everything's going and you're in one that just went against you, all right, why did that go against me? Why was I in that one versus this other one? And you can really break down the variables at that point. When we have a ton of them that are kind of all doing the same thing, it's really hard to break down the variables. So last year was a ton of information. It was a really great experience because we just got all of this data that could have easily taken 5 years to
Mm.
back test. And it was just like, here you go, all in like 8 months. And so I'm really thankful for last year. But on the other side of that, now I know, okay, this one has this specific, bullshit that they're doing. And we've had 5 others that have done exactly the same thing. Okay, cool. That's more likely to run versus this other one that's doing something other random. And we've had all of these that did the same thing and they died. So we've got a lot of variables. I mean, you've seen my spreadsheets. They're
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely ridiculous. And we keep them very updated, but all of that information together makes it so that we are very successful as a group.
Yeah.
So,
So that is one strategy. One strategy is to be spread out in all of the kind of recent or upcoming LPX plays and wait for them to do their thing and take your profits as they, when those do make their moves. Another way to do it, which is what I have been, aiming to do with, I think, improving success. Unfortunately, I was not online the days that AERC started its run. I wasn't online until after the market opened, and it had already gone up on its first spike. And CDU, I was in a hospital at a hospital appointment, but I have caught some other ones. And what I'm doing is scanning headlines in the morning. I've got Benzinga Pro open. I'm looking for. I've got my scanner set up so that I can see the pre-market movement. And when I see a jump of say 20% or 30%, on especially on a recent IPO that I will have likely or almost certainly researched when it was an IPO. That is an indication for me to take a quick look at what was the headline, where is this moving, and I'm in Ali's group checking. People are throwing out what is the EP. And that informs me that, hey, this is something I can jump in on. And what I'm often looking for is to try to catch them in kind of the first 5 minutes of that headline running. And we've seen so many of them that kind of make an initial push up, pull back for a couple minutes, enough time to get in a bid, pick up a position, and then ride the rally into the open or towards the exercise price. And the reason that strategy works for me is that I don't have time to, and I don't have the free capital right now to take Ali's approach. I can't be managing this stuff all the time. I can't be picking off knives down and then kind of sitting there waiting to try to pick off the lowest of the low, which is really, I think a key piece of her strategy that allows it to work, especially in terms of making sure that you're not ever really in a position where you're underwater in the trade. I mean, one of the other great things, if Ali sees something else run, if she wants to pull money out of a position, she can do so, take small profits and come back to it later. And for me, I'm trying to just get in and out on these trades. So I'm watching them. I'm keeping track of them to the extent that I remember the IPO research. I'm up to date on the LPX. What stocks are coming into LPX. Ali sends me the list every week for the newsletter. It's going to be a part of the premium newsletter going forward. It's not going to be a part of the free newsletter going forward after July 17th. So everyone's going to get the premium content up until July 17th. After that, we're going to move towards the premium newsletter, and that is going to include the LPX plays. And what I'm looking at is I've got these on my, on my watch list, and I also just kind of have that, mental index of when I see something that has a headline. If I see AERC got FDA approval, that is a signal to just buy it. And I'm still, I would say, the way that I really met with Ali was that we were both trading these low float IPOs, but I was kind of um, perhaps overly focused on, well, what is the company and could it run? Is this a good company? And she's like, no, these companies are all crap. They just have, lockup expirations and exercise prices that they need to meet. And that's what's really behind it. And while I, see the, not just the logic, I see the proof in that. I do believe that there is, that certain companies have the potential to drop better PR than others. And that is certainly something that we continue to debate. And I don't think either one of us is ever going to fully convince the other person that their point of view is right. And it doesn't matter. But that's kind of trading it from my approach. And then finding we're kind of hovering around the same tickers and realizing the same things with different explanations behind it. So whose explanation is more accurate or better, I think, is irrelevant. And in a lot of ways, I can see, see truths on both sides. But that is what kind of brought us together. I think we have different approaches to trading it. Again, neither is right or wrong. It's just, and we have very different lifestyles. I have, I'm literally a refugee from a war zone with 2 kids and, and a wife, and Ali has her kid, her dog. I also have 2 dogs. So I absolutely cannot be, glued to my desk trading and crunching numbers for 10, 12 hours a day. That is like, sounds really actually appealing in some ways. But my strategy is, hey, I'm going to be able to, on days when I'm able to watch, to watch my scanner and my, my BZ Pro news feed. On those days, I'm going to be able to pick off some, some runners and get in and out within a day. Usually I want to get in and out within 1 to 2 days. That way I'm limiting my exposure to, this turbulent market, crashes. I mean, when was it 2 weeks ago when the market really dumped again on inflation numbers, it was kind of like, okay, I mean, I have a couple long-term holdings that get impacted by that, but for the most part, I'm not holding stuff. So, market goes up, market goes down, whatever. I'm really just kind of, I get to, on days when I'm not trading, I just kind of get to turn off. I don't have to. I realized that I was starting to get sort of anxiety when I was spread in, last year in all these positions. And it was a great time to be in a lot of positions because everything was running, from 2000 to from 2020 to 2021. But a big pump in GSUN. I don't think this pump is over either. I'm looking to an end of day run on this one at this point.
Same.
So I'm gonna just keep my bag holding position and not add either. But I think we'll get out of this.
Something that I talk about a lot with our group is listening to all views, right? We all have a little bit of information, and the way to learn is to network and to learn from other people. Whether you agree or disagree does not matter. If you have an open mind and you will listen and take different views into your own perspective, you are going to learn from that because you're going to take your own experiences and engage that. For example, when we first started talking, it was you were like, no, this company has this in the pipeline, this in the pipeline. I'm like, cool. So they're in survival mode. They're almost out of cash. So This is why they have to run it. And what it comes to is both sides, there we go, are correct, because there are pieces of both that absolutely make sense and absolutely match up. So when you are networking, and I am all about networking, as everyone knows, like I will talk to everybody. I don't care if you are on, social media and you have 3 people that follow you, if you are saying something intelligent and you are providing a benefit, I'm going to talk to you, because it doesn't matter when you started, it doesn't matter where you're at. We all have different experiences. So when you guys are networking and when you guys are learning from other people, don't just, oh, this is what I know, I'm not going to listen, or oh, this is what I know, you're wrong, or whatever. Don't ever do that. I mean, I have started looking at other things because of your suggestions. Like, I forget the ticker earlier. We were looking at a ticker this morning, and I'm like, okay, cool. What catalysts are coming up? They've got some FDA bullshit, and okay, cool. But those are things that I wouldn't have even looked at before you and I became friends, because I didn't care. I hadn't had that experience yet. And that's where it came in. You brought that experience in of, hey, these have, these catalysts, and then it, runs a little bit later. And we call it the cover your ass catalysts, where they're like, oh, look, shiny news. And then a few days later, they turn on the algos. Well, it's all just different pieces of the exact same puzzle, and we're all putting it together. So this is for everybody. When you guys are going through social media or going through filings or going through news or whatever, keep an open mind, because there is always something to learn. Whether you implement it yourself or not, doesn't matter. It's going to give you a little bit different perspective, and it might change how you do things just enough that you're more efficient. And then the next person that you meet, it's a little bit more efficient because you have another piece of the puzzle. And obviously I'm a puzzler, so that's where I go to it. But always, always, always keep an open mind, and just, does this person know somebody or something that I don't know? Yes, awesome. Be friends with them, learn from them, and just use it to your advantage. The more you network, the more people want to network with you, because you're showing that, one, you're willing to learn, and other people that are willing to learn are going to be drawn to that. All right, that's my spiel.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, the market is so much. I mean, I have never actually felt like I knew what I was doing so much. I mean, in the market, so I can't say that I ever got that. But I get to points all the time where I feel like entire new rooms of ideas, like are opened up. Where like, oh yeah, what about this approach? What about this strategy? And maybe at first you're like, oh, it doesn't make sense. Oh wait, no, maybe it does make sense. Maybe there are, and you just kind of, I've just learned not to resist even ideas that seem totally contrarian to me. I mean, I don't I think a lot of us actually don't short stocks, like just in our head, like I don't short stocks, and it's like, yeah, I don't get it, I don't like the risk, I don't like, that's not my risk tolerance. But understanding, it took me a long time to understand. It really took me till the market started to turn to really recognize, not only it's like, duh, you can short stocks, that's one, you learn that pretty early when you're trading, but shorting stocks has a big influence on the market. That when bears sense weakness in the market, they pile on, and it's not just, stocks aren't just moving because people are starting to sell, who are holding shares are starting to sell. There are people who had no position at all that are jumping in and selling. And I remember watching, it was DocuSign, when I think it was back in November, something like that, November, December, when they had this, they lowered guidance, they missed earnings, and the stock dropped like 30%. I thought, oh, I've been wanting to buy this under 200 for a long time. And it was like, had gone from like 230 or 220 the day before. After hours was down to like 180. And every time it had gone to like to 180, it bounced before. And I thought, oh, I'm going to buy some shares here. And it kept going down. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I'm looking over at in the bid ask, the level 2 data. And I just see this, the ask just keeps like just hammering it down. I'm like, this isn't sellers. This isn't this isn't long-term investors deciding now is the time to sell. This is just, shorts just driving this thing into the ground. And it just kept going down and down and down. And, you start realizing like, oh, wow, shorting is like a force on the shares. Duh. Why didn't I ever think of that? The same way buyers, pile in and drive the price up. Shorts pile in and start driving the price down. And just like buyers eventually decide to take profits, especially day traders, you know, bears have to, close their positions to realize their gains as well. And that'll, set you up for, for a bit of a bounce, dead cat bounce, whatever you want to call it. But that was, I just remember and that was what, 8 months ago, and being like, duh, I mean, that makes so much sense, but clearly I mean, you figure there's people who've traded for 40, 50 years, these old dudes, and um, probably comfy leather chairs at, the top of big office buildings, wherever they are, or wherever they are. I'm sure there are women doing this too, more and more. But there's people with so much experience that they know, they know lifetimes more about trading stocks than I will ever know. And there's always reminders that there's new perspectives out there, that there's things you're not considering, that you don't have the whole picture. People have explained to me how warrants are actually something that can be sold in other, off market venues, that people buy these garbage IPOs just to take the warrants and get $1 for them in ways that I can't, I don't even understand and can't and don't have access to. But there are ways, there's such greater forces involved in the market than just buying and selling, shares. Even options is a huge, I think a lot of us I didn't really understand how options impacted the market until the whole Wall Street bets scenario unfolded, and they explained how, I think we all learned a lot about what market makers are,
Oh yeah.
who these kind of big, huge companies that kind of lurk in the shadows, but really are fundamental to how the market is structured. We all learned at least that those things exist, and that those things control the market in ways that we should be aware of. So yeah, always be learning stuff, always be open to new perspectives, always be willing to take the position that maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I think that applies to even much bigger things that our country is facing right now, is that people are totally unwilling to, on both sides, on the left and the right, to look at the other side and say, hey, am I even willing to consider that maybe I'm wrong? Like, maybe I'm just so sure that this is bad and this is good that I'm not even like willing to hear what the other side is saying. So now we're at a point where people won't even communicate, where it's just like, oh, well, if you're going to say that, you must be wrong, and I can't even talk to you. So we don't even want to hear what the other perspective is, which means that we just believe the other side is crazy, in which case we're just not going to hear, talk, or grow in any direction. That's why we're stuck in so many important fundamental positions in our society. And I don't mean to go into like political tangent, other than don't reject ideas just because initially they sound like they are antithetical to your own beliefs. Be open to the fact that maybe, just maybe, your position could be adjusted, or is the one that needs to be adjusted, or can be expanded without, being wrong or right. It'll certainly help your trading, might help you as a person too, could be good for the world. But yeah, I am 100% with Ali that, learning how people are making money in the stock market who have very different ideas than you might not be a strategy that you can directly deploy. I certainly can't, just because of my lifestyle, or the other things in my life. I can't trade like Ali does, and but I can still learn what she's looking at, learn what she's I mean, EPs, that's exercise prices as price targets. That's a huge one for me that she's pointed out, that I was kind of like, oh yeah, duh, that does make so much sense. I just totally wasn't even thinking about it that way. LPX, yeah, I kind of like, I was thinking quiet period and lockup period, and she explained that quiet period is garbage on these stocks, doesn't even apply to them. They're not gonna, they release headlines not because now all of a sudden they can. They release headlines because they're wanting to get out of their their locked up positions with target prices that are based on EPs. So I think we're starting to ramble here a little bit. We're down to closing in on the 2 hour mark. I think I'll go to 2 hours just to to make it a nice round number. Ali, anything you want to share in the last 10 minutes here before I wrap this up?
We have a summer that is not dying. So with that, like I was planning on kind of chilling out for the summer. That's why I had my surgery scheduled and I did things like that. But we had kind of the lull and the inflation numbers came out and everything sucked for about a week and a half. And now we're starting to see the volume come back and the movement. And with that, if you guys have vacation scheduled, take your vacation. Don't let the market determine that. I mean, half my room right now is on vacation because we all scheduled it about the same time, and that worked really well. But on the other side of that, if you're not on vacation, if you're not, if you don't have other things to do, definitely pay attention, because what the market is doing right now is going to determine how it reacts the rest of the summer. We generally have it pick back up about the end of July, while it's picking back up the middle of June. Like we had a couple weeks down where we normally have like 6 weeks down. So just kind of watching where the money is. I don't do options, but I have a lot of friends that do options, and they're like, yeah, there's money coming back in already. They were talking about, the futures opening, things like that this weekend that were just like completely weird for this time of year. So we're kind of back in a time that is an unknown, but with the unknown, it's one of the best times to learn, because anytime we have an anomaly, then we get to use that for later on. It's not just the norm and okay, cool, we've already done this, we're not going to learn anything from it, it's doing the same thing. We've got something that's different. So let's, file that in our knowledge base. And how can this affect us later on? We had a Grinch Christmas. How that affects us with the lockups right now. We only had 2 lockups for this week, because you look 6 months back and hey, this was Christmas. So next week, I think we only have a couple of them also. And it's because, hey, New Year's. Well, January was pretty bloody. So what are we going to have as far as January? I think in the next like 4 or 5 weeks, we only have maybe 6 or 7 lockups, but we have a lot of them that haven't run yet. So summer isn't chilling out like it expected. So are we going to continue to have the AERCs and the CDUs? So definitely have all of those on watch if you're watching the lockups. As far as the IPO debuts, I think I added like 6 or 7 of them in the last couple of days that Weebles dropped. And like that was unheard of last year. Last year we didn't have that. The summer was just like boring. So we're in a little bit different atmosphere than the norm, which is awesome. It keeps us, with the plays coming up. But on the other side of that, who's going to be controlling them? Like, obviously, we've got a lot of potential with GSUN right now. Like, it died just like we expected, and now it's walking back up. And looking at the chart right this second, I'm going to say it's going to be a multi. We might even have like into next week on this one before it just dumps out and dies. So when we have the multiple opportunities that are outside of the norm for this kind of, this time of year, you kind of have to really just be open-minded. And these are the times that I personally am taking a little bit more of a chance, because I don't know what to expect and it could go either way. So I'm respecting my risk, of course, but on the other side, normally I would have sold out of GSUN. I mean, granted, it's 12 shares, who cares? But I base things on statistics. So for me, who cares if it's 12 shares? This is statistics for next time. Normally, I would have been like, oh, cool, it dropped. I would have been out on that first halt and then looking to buy it back. But I'm like, well, this is kind of a weird one. We've had a couple of them recently that have just been all over the place. So let's just get the statistics and see what it does. So being a little bit more open-minded this time of year, especially, but also this is the time to get in your research, get in your tracking. We are a little bit slower, and just learn everything you possibly can so you're prepared when the market is just absolutely balls to the wall, going crazy, and you have to react instantly to a lot of different things. So just be ready for it.
And I want to make NASCAR All Out makes a good point about these pre-IPOs on Webull. Certainly, we've seen a lot of them not do well. ASNS, there was a time when pretty much, I think that was a Bosted deal There was a time when everything boasted, everything Network One, um, that every time they brought deals to the table, they were, flat out definitely going to debut above the IPO price. Get as many shares as you can. Uh, no problem. Just take what you get and you sell it for an instant profit. Sometimes it's 4 shares, sometimes it's 50 shares. Certainly, they've. I would say that since I started trading IPOs, in early 2000 to now, we're seeing a lot more of these lesser quality kind of second tier underwriter issues where in 2020, 2021, like the store, anything with a good story would run. And the last one we've really seen run on any kind of like, I would say like a low float IPO that really just ran because it was a hot product was LITM. Everyone was like, oh, it's lithium, it's battery, it's low float, it's going to run. It did.
Mhm.
But most of the others have just kind of been like, retail's not piling into IPOs right now. People are playing these Chinese stealth ones, but I don't even think these like Top and JCSE, LYT, TNON. I don't think it's American retail traders driving these up. I think this is the chopsticks involved that are kind of picking these up and manipulating them. That the China side of these deals is what's behind the moves, and that's really that is kind of that. And then we saw it again last week. It came back. That was the HSCS, the day two rally. That one I had kind of given up or called off the day two rally. I even said that in the newsletter about HSCS. But then it did something really weird and it debuted at 3:23 in the afternoon Eastern time, which is super, super late for any IPO, especially a super low float IPO. And it just dropped. It dropped down to like $1.75. And right as the market was closing, and it was at $1.75. I said, okay, why not? So I took a position there. It was up 100%, an hour later and after hours. So that worked out. But those are kind of the two plays that we're looking for right now. And really, as I assess what the it's a cool story and it's a low float, it doesn't seem to be working right now. It's a Chinese, there's Chinese element to it, or they're not really giving out shares to retail. If I hear that from some people I know who have brokerage accounts, then I can say, okay, well, I'll put in for an allocation request. Otherwise, you can't just say, oh, well, MOB, it's like, sounds cool. It's cybersecurity for drones, and we're at war with, Russia and Ukraine. And like, so drone cybersecurity is going to be like a really, important thing. And that IPO only has 2.15 million shares. So like, that's going to be a good IPO. I can't say that to myself right now. And ultimately, it comes down to, like we saw with ASNS, if they had given us a partial allocation, I would have said, oh, well, then that was probably going to rip. But when they give us a full allocation, it's like, I wish I hadn't
Mhm.
asked for, $1,000 or $2,000 worth, because it's almost like, okay, here's a great example with today, GSUN. I don't think I would have gotten a whole lot more shares. It's not like if I had asked for $5,000 worth of shares, they were going to give me, a couple hundred shares. It's more like, no, you're going to get like 15 shares, no matter like how much I asked for. Maybe a little more, maybe a little bit less. OST, I got 50 shares, but I had asked for a big allocation there.
Sure.
I think everyone else got like 25 shares. So an extra
Mhm.
25 shares. So the point is, I don't see a huge benefit of putting in for a big allocation request at all. I think really even asking for $500 worth was kind of risky on GSUN, because if they had given us the full allocation, it probably wouldn't have ripped like this. If they give and when they give us a small allocation, it's like, oh well, I could have gotten 15 shares with like $100. So don't see. I think the point I'm kind of circling around and then nailing here is that I see no point in putting in for large allocation requests on Webull. They're either going to give you a small allocation if it's going to pull something, like this big debut we saw with GSUN, or they're going to give you a whole bunch, and then you just really with ASNS, on that one. The underwriter did pull the price up on the debut. We just weren't fast enough. A lot of us were fast enough to react and said, okay, well, clearly it's been like it's been showing the price, way below the IPO price, and now they're able to get it just under the IPO price. Let's get out now, and you would have lost like.
And it's on a walk back up right now. So it hit 125 like a week and a half out, and it just kind of chilled there. It bounced 1, 2, 3 times, and now it's back up to 182 today. It's walking up, but they've got a conference call tonight. I think it's on earnings. So, and I mean, reality, they made money on the IPO, so earnings isn't going to be bad. I haven't actually looked into it yet, but yeah, it's walking back up today. I actually just tweeted, I was like, so it's walking back up. Is it going to pull a PEV from $1? No, it's not going to pull a PEV up to what a PEV just hit 6. Like it's not going to do that.
668.
Yeah, I mean, we might get like $1 or $2. Okay, fine. But yeah, so things like that.
I haven't really seen PEV. I mean, that does look. I mean, there's absolutely no catalyst. It was just okay.
It just popped.
It just popped, and
it was algos. I watched
it.
And
it's
I was like,
and I really do wonder: is this okay? Is this like the China side stepping in and actually doing what? Did they just sit back and wait and maybe
let me ask?
But, yeah. Not sure how much you want to. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, from 650 to just crash. It was the worst IPO I remember seeing for a long time.
I mean,
where it priced, where it debuted, where it dropped, that there was no resistance, and that it rallied does not particularly surprise me.
But the China runs have been on Mullen the last couple of days, so for them to be on another motor company would actually make sense.
Does everyone who asks get an allocation on Webull?
No.
I haven't really seen them give out 0 allocations unless
I got one.
Unless nobody got any.
I got one. So I think it was late though. I think it depends on what time you put it in, because there was one, I forget the ticker, but I put it in like an hour before close on the day that they were cutting it off. And I did not get it. And the rest of you got like a couple shares. So I forget the ticker. Our room will probably remove it.
AERC gave like 2 shares to everybody.
Bitches.
And that was an IPO that was priced at 10. It was the day before Thanksgiving. It was like a market holiday, or it was like a half day in the market. It was weird that it even IPO'd, and it opened up at 40 and then ripped over 100. So some of the, the runs, like I remember SOPA was a stealth IPO that ripped for, 2 days. And, when you then see some of these that run, like do funky things on the debut, are the ones that are poised to do, to make big runs, into their LPX and EPs. So I kind of, I when AERC posted its headline, I really kicked myself for, I was late to the spike. I was already like, it was already up 100%. I had been out all morning. At this point, I can, hindsight is 2020, but still a big piece of me is like, wait, it was only at like 240 by that point, up from like 120. That you totally should have like just remembered that. I mean, you remember what it did on day one. You knew that it was a weird stock, weird float, everything. You bite on those. SOPA was the same thing. It ran on inclusion in the Russell 2000, which 9 times out of 10 means nothing to these stocks. But with SOPA, it ran from like $2 to $17 over 3 days or something. And these, there's got to come up with a catchier line, but when they run on the IPO or they do funky things on the IPO debut, and then crash down, those are the ones to look for when they, drop a headline, after LPX or going into LPX with EPs at 500 or 1,000% above the share price. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go get more coffee, Matt. It's been fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some coffee. I had a half cup this morning. We spent 4 hours getting. Yeah, we're on the. I mean, I can't say that the public healthcare system is bad in Portugal. It's pretty good, but you do wait. Um, and
Oof.
yeah, we were in the. I guess it's like the basic emergency room. We were there for 4 hours today, just for a fever and to get some antibiotics and stuff. So that's how my day went. I have not really eaten
Woohoo!
yet either, and
Well,
I'm
go
going to
eat.
keep watching GSUN. One last note on this is I do like it when that hard spike down, we see kind of like higher lows.
And then the pennant. Love the pennant.
Where are you seeing the?
It looks like a
here?
pennant flag. No,
Yeah.
the entire chart. The whole
Okay.
chart, it
Whole
looks like
thing
a
is
pennant flag.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Sweet.
yeah, I've been watching for an end of day run here when it kind of like bounces along VWAP here on these low float IPOs. That's good. Day two possible. I mean, it feels like it's not being completely sold off. That could change at any minute. But I'm going to hold out optimism for this to rally into the close. And if I can get out at a profit today, and I see after hours or pre-market kind of sell back down to 13-14, I might get back in because I don't think that this is done. And I think we've seen a lot of these, and this is a clear China. I mean, this company is such garbage. It's got like 2 schools in China and
They
private.
actually have schools. Cool.
Yeah, they have a primary school and a secondary school, but China came out and said, we don't want education to be for profit anymore. So, yeah, this is not a company that anyone, sane investor would be buying for $15 a share or pricing at a market cap of $275 million. So, yeah, $0 or $2 is the direction. But yeah, I will hold out hope that this sees the other side of 20 in the next few days, if not end of day today. So
Woohoo.
thanks for joining me, Allie. Rest
Thanks for
up,
having me, Matt.
heal up, everybody. Go sign up for the premium version of the newsletter. I gave out big discounts. There's 100 coupon codes for each of the annual and monthly subscriptions. I'm going to cap it at 300 subscriptions. Eventually, hopefully, we get there. May decide to cap it lower than that if I feel like it. But thanks for joining me, everybody. One other note is BIAF, which was scheduled today, got pulled. So that I believe is still on Webull.
Yeah, it's on the 1st.
Not particularly interested in that one. Once they start repositioning, when they have units, when they get rescheduled for, and I don't see any reason why it would be a Chinese stealth. I'm kind of like, no, I'll watch for the, maybe day 2 rebound plays come back. But it's got to be pretty bad for me to, it got to be a very bad debut that just trails off all day for me to look at that. So we do have some IPOs tomorrow. I doubt I will have time to trade them. They're wearable devices, which I'm not too thrilled about, although it sounds pretty cool. Maybe if it had gone live in November when Metaverse was a big old thing, when Roblox went to 140 and Facebook had announced their name change, maybe then it would have been interested. MOB, which is the drone cybersecurity, both are Israeli tech companies, 2.15 million shares. And then ONFO, Onfolio. It's like they own a bunch of like websites that make like maybe $100,000 a year each. It's 1.7 million units, and those units have 2 warrants, and I just can't justify thinking, I can't come up with any reason why that would be exciting. So maybe it rips, probably doesn't. Don't think I'm going to try to live stream anything. And then we have a mainstream IPO slated for Friday, which is a metals miner company that's Ivanhoe Electric, and it's 14.4 million shares. Seems to be kind of priced at a reasonable. That when markets are shaky and a company does an IPO, they're not able usually to get the kind of premium that they would have liked to have get from the IPO. They're also less likely to debut The opening print on retail is usually more user friendly than we'll see in a hot market. So maybe that's it'll be interesting. I don't think I'll live stream any of those. I will be watching IE pretty closely and see if especially if it debuts below the IPO price, which we saw on, I think it was on one of the other recent mainstream IPOs that gave a pretty safe entry for, $1 or $2 win and 10%, 15% win on a day, an easy day trade that takes, a few minutes to materialize once it goes live. That's an interesting setup for me. So the IPO calendar, if it keeps warming up, we could be seeing the market turn around. That's the underwriters, especially for the mainstream IPOs, tend to have a better sense of what the market's doing and tend to be willing to take these live when they feel like the general consensus amongst institutional traders is that it's safe to to re-enter the market. So that could all be very encouraging for the IPO calendar going forward. I believe we have quite a bit of pent up supply in the IPO. The IPO realm, as the first 6 months of this year have been pretty horrendously unfriendly to known pumper Robert Friedland. Well, pumpers can be good, good for these. Good for these trading. NASCAR is off to Vegas. Cool, enjoy. Have a great time.
I'm in Vegas.
Stay hydrated. Hey, meet up with Allie. And, we've gone for 2 hours and 10 minutes here. Thanks for joining, Allie. I'm going to sign off now. Good luck, everybody.
Have a good one.
And talk later. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
This up to the end broadcast. All right. Signing off. Bye, guys.